Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. Welcome to Winter NAMM 2019. It is super busy here on the show floor. We're in the Earthworks booth. This is Jonathan Moffett. It's great to see you.
Pleasure to see you as well. Great to be here.
Yeah, so you were doing an interview here at the Earthworks booth.
Yes, I did an interview earlier, and then I'm here now to do one with you, Sweetwater.
Oh, we appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Major suppliers of music equipment for all of us musicians.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. So what's your connection to Earthworks? How did you make the meet up with these guys?
Last year at the show, I was introduced to Earthworks by Tony Thunder Smith, drummer friend of mine from way back in '79 on the Jackson tour. He played with the opening act, and we've been friends ever since that time.
Right.
And he caught me in one of the hallways and said, "You got to come check out these mics. They're
right.
incredible, and they're really catching on really good. You got to get in there." And one of the early endorsers, because the quality is really amazing.
Right.
I followed his advice, and I showed up here. I heard the mics. Had a little demo drum set going on, and I checked out the vocal mics as well, and I fell in love with them.
Awesome.
And I fell in love with not only the sonic quality, but the quality of the build of them, which is very, very important.
Right, yeah. These are the brand new SR 314.
Yes.
Condenser live vocal mic. It's solid, right? It feels like the real thing.
It feels really, really solid in your hand, and the design is just, it's got me. One of the most sexiest mics I've ever seen.
Right.
And it's got that Star Trek vibe. You know, we all love Star Trek, so it's got that futuristic, but at the same time, that really nostalgic look as well.
Right. And frequency response up to 30 kilohertz so they can hear everything we're saying, right?
Absolutely. We want that to happen too.
We want that top end
everything.
Out there. That's it, exactly. So you've had such a long, distinguished career. Tell us a little bit about, what do you attribute your success to? What made you able to step into those gigs and take them on?
Well, first of all, preparation. Being a kid, I started at 6 years old, and learning drum. First learning a snare drum, and then by the time I was 10 years old, I had a whole set, and I was making money with my brother's band at nightclubs in New Orleans, Louisiana. So I've been playing and making money and working in music since 10 years old, and up until this point, 40 years professional right now. This year. I joined the Jacksons in '79 and worked with them on 4 tours, all the brothers of Jacksons. And then I went with Michael in '97 on his history tour, solo tour. And then I did This Is It with Michael, which turned 30 years full circle with Michael.
That's awesome.
So, and then I worked with Janet, his sister, '93, '94, written for LaToya. But I've also worked with Sir Elton John 2 years, George Michael 2 years. You know, I worked with Madonna 5 years, including records and tours. And I've been working with many other artists, you know, Kenny G and several other artists, Lionel Richie. I've been blessed, really blessed.
That is amazing.
But it's preparation for my practicing through the years. You cannot communicate with other musicians unless you develop a vocabulary on your instrument. Then you can have a conversation musically and on your instruments with other musicians. So I put in a lot of time, hours and hours, up to 8 hours a day when I was a young kid, and got to know my instrument, be one with it, and then I was able to communicate with other people and interact and have conversations rhythmically and musically. So I think the preparation that got me to this point, that I was very versed at what I could do on the drums and I had confidence. And you got to have that to perform on this level. You got to have confidence.
Right. So moving into a gig like that, do you audition for a gig like that, or do they come to you? Is it word of mouth? How do you make those connections?
Well, that was audition. I ran into the musical director that they had at the time in '79, who was a friend of mine from New Orleans, and every time they came to New Orleans, he'd come to my mother's house, they called me Sugarfoot, is my stage name. They said, Sugarfoot, you got to come to LA, you'd be great out there. I've been telling the Jackson brothers about you, and finally I went out there in '79, and about a month and a half later, I ran into him. He told me they were audition drummers at that particular time. But it was the last day the day I ran into him was the last day auditions. He said he would try to get them extended a day. I said, just tell them, give me a chance. And he did get them to extend it for me. They heard me and they selected me.
That's awesome.
After 2 weeks of auditioning drummers, and I was blessed and fortunate that they liked what they heard. And I became their drummer. And then everything else that came afterwards, those names I mentioned, they heard me with the Jacksons or with another artist and called me. And I wound up my career started developing from there.
Did they ever tell you what it was that they heard that made you stand out, that made you the choice?
One of the main things people really like and are drawn to me is my feel. Drummers and musicians from New Orleans have a really different distinction of emotional feel. And also the rhythm, the timing that we use, a lot of syncopation, and it adds to the character where you play. So those are factors that they thought had characteristic when it added to their music, had a great feel and give their music a great feel, and a real soulful feel, an emotional feel. And I grew up learning the music down in New Orleans in that manner, and it carries over to my playing. And they heard that, they liked that part about me, as well as my timing. I worked on timing.
Is that something that someone can develop? Can they develop that emotional feel, that groove, and that rhythm?
Of course you can develop it, but a lot of people are drawn to New Orleans musicians because we have a different, distinctive feel down there.
Okay.
It's a kind of emotional, lazy, we swing the beat back just a hair of a fraction, and the pocket settles in a different place, and the kick drum lands on a certain place. So it's a little bit of a lazy, laid-back thing which brings emotion. Not that we're late on the timing, but we bring it back in an emotional way. We play a little bit laid back, or we can play on top, or we can play on the beat, but it was an emotional attitude. And that comes from the culture down there. All the drummers and the musicians ask me, how do you get that feel, that New Orleans feel? I say, you have to go down there, you got to live amongst the people, you got to eat that good food, you got to lay around that swamp a little bit, and you get that swampy feel,
right.
You know, and then you start to settle in, and you understand it subliminally, and you don't even realize you're getting it, and you become a New Orleans musician in a way, no matter where you're from. But you have to live amongst the culture, and it invests in you. And if you become it, and it becomes part of your character if you play,
you really have to absorb it.
And you be unique. It's really unique.
Right. So when you embark on a tour like that with the Jacksons, Michael Jackson, Elton John, you know, all the great artists that you mentioned there, do they expect you to play the parts off the records, or are they asking you to come in and just let you have your way with whatever you want to do?
9 times out of 10, Michael wants it. I mean, of all the artists, 9 times out of 10 want you to play it like the record. But Michael was very stickler for that. You gotta play it like the record. Madonna was like that to a degree, allows some freedom, but Michael was very strict with that. He said, my fans know my records, they know my songs, they know my music, they expect to hear the record, but just with the live energy and stuff. So we gotta have it just like the record. And Michael was very particular about that. Madonna was close to that, but allowed some freedom. I could express and do different feels and things like that, a different swing of attitude. Of course, every time I play it's with a lot of intensity and power, because I gotta make the people feel it and get up out their seats and want to participate. I play with a lot of energy. But Elton John was a different story. Elton John's rock and roll. It's free. There's no click track like Madonna and Michael. I played with George Michael, click track and everything. But Elton John was total free time, total rock and roll. When we say Rocket Man, we rocked it, man.
Right.
It was awesome. And I got a chance to play freely in a rock attitude and manner, because his music is awesome. His songs are so memorable, so classic. And it was an incredible pleasure for me, because I was a big fan of Elton, like everybody else is, and of his writing and his performing.
Right.
So that was a great, really relief to play total free. A couple other artists was the same way, but mostly the artists I work with to the click track, we got to play it just like the record.
Right.
Which I respect a lot, and it gets me into the manner of pleasing an artist who wanted a certain way. It's a great reward that you can please an artist on that caliber with that perfectionism, and that you hone your craft, your skills, and that can make them happy to want you back again. That's very important.
Sure, and you can still infuse your feel into those parts, and you still have your personality when you're playing those parts.
Absolutely, your dynamic, add your dynamics, your attack, your like I say, articulation, your finesse, but playing the parts that are there on the record.
Right.
They appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always have to ask, when I interview an artist on your level who's worked with so many great artists, what is it that makes a great artist?
A great musician artist or a great recording artist?
Either one. What do you?
Well, I would say I'm a recording artist too, because I recorded on a lot of records as well. I just wasn't the signed record deal artist. Mm-hmm. What makes us? Mm-hmm. I would say attention to detail. Mm-hmm. Like I said, pay attention to what the artist wants, please the artist, and that's a level of professionalism that carries you far in your career.
Right.
I think also detail of the character of the music that you're playing. First, you got to love the music you're playing, and even if you don't, you got to perform it to your best. That takes a professional attitude.
Right.
You may not like something, but you got to do it like if you liked it, and make it feel great and sound good too. That's professionalism. You got to have all the disciplines that's required in that, you know. And the music you love too, disciplines, of course. You're gonna do it because you love it. You get pleasure from it. But you gotta do it on a level that, like I said, to please the people that you're working for, who hired you.
Right.
And that's distinguishes just a musician from a professional.
Right.
that you can comply to the rules and regulations that's required on every individual gig or any individual gig that you're hired for. You know, it's my job to please them. They're paying me to give them what they want, not what I want. To give them what they want. They need to make them do a good job. Right. And that distinguishes a professional from an amateur. And that I'm disciplined not to play something that's not there that I know that they won't like or that clutters the song. So I know all these chops and different things I could do, but if it's not necessary, don't do it. Why do it? Because it's not the song. Right. So that's professionalism. It's just important how many notes you don't play as the notes you play.
Right. That's great. That's great. So, one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
What would be your number one tip for someone who wants to improve their groove, wants to improve their feel?
Find the person, the artist, whatever instrumentation it is you are into, you participate in, or the one you like. Find the particular artist or musician that you really admire, and admire their feel, their attitude, their swing. Swing makes the feel. Touch and the way they play makes the feel. Like I say, articulation, finesse, the way they play, dynamics make the feel. Find that person with all those elements in their style and emulate that, copy that. You know, become like a Canon copier and replicate that. You know, and that goes from studying with the different elements and being a drummer, where the kick drum falls, where the snare drum falls, where the hi-hat falls. You know, the intricacies of the rhythms they use, and how they mix the rhythms. Emulate that. Learn to emulate that. And then on top of that, once you get the actual figures and the composition of it together, and the syncopation of it together, then learn to emulate the feel, become them, the feeling, the attitude, the character that they played that rhythm with. You got to learn how to discern that and become that and replicate it. That's the differentiating factor between one musician to another. Can you become that person? Like when I do a lot of Michael music, John Robinson's playing on a hit record. I have to try to become John Robinson when I play them figures he played on that record. No matter what song, it Beat It, he didn't play on Beat It, but on Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, right. Off the Wall, Want to Be Starting Something, all those songs. I have to create that attitude, that feel that he had on there, and become that, emulate that, shadow that, portray that, and that makes it live, like the song is on the record, which was what Michael wanted, and what the fans wanted.
Sure.
So that is the distinguishing character, and the thing that's I think most important, to be able to copy the nuances of an artist that you admire and that you're into, that inspires you. Be able to recreate that and become that, and then you're on a level and your way to becoming a professional in industry, because you can become what's necessary to keep you working.
Right. Awesome. Great advice. Great wisdom. We appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking time to sit down with us today. It's a real pleasure to meet you.
My pleasure as well.
I hope we'll get you out to Sweetwater sometime. We'd love to have you visit us and hang out a little bit.
That would be great.
Right.
That would be great.
I hope so. We'll look forward to it.
You provide a very important service for everybody around the country and stuff around the world.
Thank you.
Yeah, very
You're kind to say so. We
appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.
Right.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me here at the Earthworks booth at Winter NAMM 2019. We have to give a shout out. Thank you to them for letting us use these SR314 microphones. Great sounding microphones.
I love
you
this
really
microphone.
want to check these out.
I love this microphone. It's awesome.
Right on.
It feels so great. It feels like a Bentley in my hand, if I can hold a Bentley in my hand.
There you go.
A Rolls Royce, a Phantom in my hand, right here.
Right on.
It's beautiful.
You heard it there from Jonathan. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.